manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers, Don Mattingly. How are you, Don?
Hi, Rich. How are you?
I am thrilled. Tell me about how's life? What's going on with you, Don? Everything
A
good?
whole lot. Just getting through it, right?
Just gosh, I hear you.
I feel good. You know, this game is funny. The first couple of games in Chicago, we don't do much. Kershaw and Greinke lose. Things look terrible. And then you go out and able to get a good game from our starter, you know, getting us into the fifth, getting into the bullpen, you win a couple, and life is good all of a sudden again. So this game just kind of rolls on that roller coaster all the time.
Yeah, I know, Don, and you know that. Things happen, obviously, from your playing career. So many unexpected things happen, and from your managing career, you never know when you might go out and be the first ever manager to overturn a play via replay involving a guy holding a baby while feeding him in the left arm and reaching out and interfering with your first baseman with his right arm. That's never happened before, Don.
Really? That was nice. That was a nice play. I actually didn't. It's funny because I didn't see the baby. When I seen, all I could see was the arm come out from the dugout there in Wrigley when I go to argue it. And the guy, as I'm coming back in, he goes, "Man, the guy made a great catch with the baby." I said, "Hey, keep the ball. That's fine with me, but we need that out there."
I mean, you're a dad. You're a slick fielding first baseman as well by trade. I mean, that right there, that was something else. I've never seen anything like that before, Don.
I got that play. I can do that. I could do that. Yeah, I don't know. The only thing, the trick that he had, I'm not sure I have in my bag, is giving him the bottle at the same time. That throws a monkey wrench in the plan.
Yeah, I mean, the left hand on the bottom of the bottle while cradling the son with the forearm and then grabbing the ball with his right hand. But I think the baby did give an assist. It wasn't an unassisted play by the dad, you know?
Right. I did see one of the channels they put on there about how the baby helped balance him out. It was like a counterbalance. It kept him from falling over. And that's when the mom hits him over the head with something, if he tips over with the baby.
Oh, my gosh. You know, the things you will see. Don Mattingly, Dodger manager, joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. Tell me about Puig's hand. What's going on with the open callus that's kept him out of the lineup the last couple days?
Yeah, just like a lot of the hitters, you get a callus on it's usually your bottom hand. It is the bottom hand, and it's guys that are down on the knob, and over time that thing just kind of gets built up like a big callus. Usually you kind of keep it trimmed down just a little bit, just to keep it from getting too big where it just kind of peels. And I guess they let it go, and just kind of the whole thing came off at once, and had a pretty good little crater of tender skin under there.
And so is he going to play today, or do you know right now if he's going to play today?
We'll probably give him one more day. We're playing good anyway, so it's kind of like, okay, we've won the last two. He hasn't been in there. Give the hand another day. We're on a little bit of a roll here. We'll see where it goes.
Justin Turner is a house of fire right now, Don. Tell me about this kid and how he's sort of growing into his own for the Dodgers right now.
Yeah, Justin's been a great pickup for us. We picked him up a couple of springs ago and on a minor league deal right before spring training started, and it's .340 for us last year. And you think, oh, man, well, he was a pinch hitter. He played a little bit. Maybe he's not that good, or maybe his numbers are going to go back to where they were before. But then this year in spring training, he just kind of came right out where he left off, and now he's taking into the season. So I think we have to, take a good look and say, hey, this kid's made some changes, and he's got it figured out. And he's always been a good hitter, but this is, he's just kind of taken it to another level.
Yeah, and he's looking in a way that Steinbrenner would never have let you do that, right, Don? Ever.
He definitely would not have let that beard get like that. But the Dodgers have been an open-minded club over the years, and JT's taking advantage of that.
You know, it's interesting, too, as you hear around town. I'm on the phone with Don Mattingly here on the Rich Eisen Show about the hitting and how your team's struggling and Greinke's not getting the results in many ways because of the hitting. And you are one of the best hitters of your generation, and the hitting coach is a guy named Mark McGwire. I mean, what can you do? It's something that's out of your control, right? I mean, what can you do to try and download your information and knowledge and patience and knowledge of the strike zone, the same with Mark, and try and infuse it into your team?
Well, you want to teach, that's for sure. They've got to be willing to keep making changes. And I think we were a really good offensive club early, probably better, looked better than we actually are going to be. And I think over maybe the last month, we were not a very good offensive club, but I don't think that's kind of where that bad either. I think we're somewhere in the middle there. But I think Mac's experience and hopefully my experience and Tim Wallach and guys like that, there's going to be no panic within that circle. And I think that's the main thing with your hitters is that we're not going off the deep end, making huge changes, wholesale changes. We're going to stay with the plan. Let's look at it realistically. Are we getting good pitches to hit? Are we making the guy throw strikes? What are they doing differently, and what do we need to do differently? So I think we do that in a way that just kind of is a day-to-day role, and not go off the deep end and go into panic, because that's when players they can get that feel.
And you're seeing one of the hottest home run hitters in recent memory in Giancarlo Stanton this weekend. Who's the best home run hitter you played with or were around in your playing days, Don?
Well, obviously seeing Big Mac, playing against him in Oakland, he was one of those guys. Cecil Fielder, I've seen some years when he hit, I think he went 50 back-to-back. Detroit, he was one of those guys at the time. There's, obviously a number of guys I've seen, Dave Kingmans of the world hit him a long way, but Giancarlo is some kind of specimen, and he's on a pace right now to do big things. And he's one dangerous guy. I'll tell you, he's fun to watch. When you see the highlights, not when you're necessarily sitting in the dugout across the way, because he hits them a long way.
Don, I work with Deion Sanders, and he speaks of you reverentially in many ways that I do too. Do you have a good Deion story for me, Don, when he first came up?
Well, the biggest thing about D for me was just I always remember he had a great swing, and he's kind of the opposite of what the Showtime personality is, as far as loud and kind of talking and upbeat, all that kind of the Showtime. What was it? Time it was
prime time
or something. Prime time.
Oh yeah.
Well, in the locker room, he's just one of the guys, and that's what I loved about Deion, is that you knew that was a show, and the real guy was in the locker room, who would be, he'd be doing push-ups and sit-ups and kind of getting ready for football during baseball. And I always loved his swing. I always thought he had a great swing. If he really would have chose to play baseball, give it 100% of his attention, he would have been really, really good. He was really good anyway. But obviously, a Hall of Famer in football, so he probably chose the right route.
Yeah, and then he also he drew a dollar sign in the dirt in the batter's box in front of Carlton Fisk one night, though, Don. That turned ugly fast. I remember that.
Yeah, probably nowadays that'd be okay. But with the days of Carlton Fisk and Bob Boone and those guys catching, that probably didn't go over real big.
No, and today I'm sure you're not aware, but today is the 41st birthday of Derek Jeter, and your guys' paths crossed maybe like two ships in the '95 season, if I'm not mistaken. Your last year with the Yankees, Jeter might have had a cup of coffee towards the end of the season that year, right, Don? Is that the way that happened with Jeter?
Yeah, G came up at the end of that season. I was lucky from the standpoint of getting to see him. The Yankees did something that I really liked, and it probably has to be the right player for that. But they brought him right after they signed him. The next season, he was in big league camp, and you have to have the right guy to be able to handle that. But to be able to see Derek as a young, kind of almost gangly kid, right, at that moment, and thinking, wow, this guy doesn't look like, a big league player at all. And then to see him 12 months later in spring training again and look, oh, he looks a little different. He made some changes, and then see him again and then go, oh, this guy's really going to be good. And it was just really a blessing for me to be able to watch him. One of the favorite things about Derek for me, he was doing something when I was playing first. He was at short in a couple of games that he played. Every play was bang, bang, like right on. I mean, it was like he was just taking that extra click to get rid of it. And I said, hey, take a look at Alan Trammell and these guys, and watch how they get rid of the ball. They're almost throwing it by the time they catch it. It's almost a catch and throw at the same time. And I remember watching the next day in BP, and he already had it down. And I was like, oh, this kid's going to be something special. It makes those kind of adjustments that fast.
Well, I got to just bring this up too, Don. I mean, it's just something that Yankee fans like me, we lament it. We still talk about it. It's, gosh darn, now 20 years later. the fact that you weren't part of the Tory run after all that you poured in, all the blood, sweat, and tears of the Steinbrenner insanity and all those years, just as it began to get started with the rings that we were all hoping that you would lead it into, you hung him up. I mean, and it kills me. I'm just wondering if you ever think of that at all, Don.
Oh, you definitely think about not having that opportunity to be a part of those teams. But I felt like I was a big part of the building block of that, of Derek coming up and Bernie coming up and Posada, Paul O'Neill there. That group we had the years moving into that, I think we set the tone for what happened next. And purely from a baseball standpoint, I know that a lot of Yankee fans have given me that same type of feeling, and you have that feeling yourself. But the decision I made was purely family and kids, and not wanting my kids to grow up without me, and the feelings that I was getting when I wasn't at the ballpark. I still loved playing and loved being around the guys, but when I was away from the field, the feelings I was having where the kids were in Indiana playing ball and things like that, and I couldn't be there for that. That's the thing I couldn't live with myself if that would have, I would have let those boys get away from me. And that's the one thing I'll never, ever look back and feel bad about.
And then that 94 season, it was all set up, and then the strike hit. My gosh, it was right there, right, Don? You would have taken it down with Buck.
We definitely had a good club in 94, and we're set up nice. But then in 95, we win. I think we win 18 out of 21 down the stretch to get in the playoffs, have Seattle down 2-0, and then it was a great series. Randy Johnson beats us in Game 3, and then we just can't close the door in that last day with the lead to move on, because I felt like that club was going to be good enough. Felt like we could have beat Cleveland in that and then moved on. So we had our shot in 95. It would have been nice to have 2 shots. But that's not the way it worked out.
Yeah, and then you got that homer in the playoff game, though. That's something I was waiting for my whole adolescent life, Don. You gave it to us at least.
That was a good feeling. I will say that. It's one you don't forget in Yankee Stadium. And I hit it off a guy, and I've probably told this story before, but hit it off of Andy Bennis. And Andy Bennis is from Evansville, my hometown. So that was at that moment that was Evansville Dennis fans against Mattingly fans, and I had to take at least advantage of him there.
Don, thanks for taking the time. Good luck with in Miami, and let's please keep in touch.
All right, Rich.
Appreciate
Good to talk to you.
Same here.
All right.
Thank you. That's Don Mattingly, manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.